Welcome to the Global Hog Industry Virtual Conference. Hello, everyone. I'm farm broadcaster Max Armstrong, bringing you another outstanding topic and a very interesting topic dealing with the challenge of manpower in the swine industry. We're going to share the visit with you over the next few minutes and offer you the opportunity to ask some questions, too. This session is being brought to you by National Hog Farmer. And please don't forget to visit our event lobby. Check out the extensive collection of resources and information provided by our event sponsors. And let them know, too, how much you appreciate their participation in this first ever virtual conference. And if you have any questions throughout the session, feel free to submit them right there on the screen. We're going to talk about the human intelligence factor, how to maximize that in swine production. And we have a couple of guests I'd like to introduce you to. John Hoek has joined us here at the desk. John is with Summit Precision Production, Director of Swine System Development with Summit. John, I've known you a long time. You've been in the hog industry for, what, 33 decades?
30 years, yep.
Yeah, I was thinking it was pretty close to that.
30 years, and glad to be here, Max. Appreciate the invitation. And
Kasey Sheldon is here also. Human Strategy Coordinator is your title with Summit. Am I correct about that?
Correct, yes.
Well, let's talk about this human element. Obviously, it's a big concern for producers right now, how to deal with these challenges. Kind of set the basis of the discussion for us here, John.
Sure, Max. After 30 years in the pig business, one of the reoccurring themes that producers are concerned about is labor and people, and how to find people, how to recruit people, how to train people. And as the industry has scaled over the last 30 years, and we've gone from 200 sow farms to 10,000 sow farms to several 100,000 sow enterprises, the scale and volume of people being used has increased. And there's not enough farm kids to go around. And so, like any other industry, the pig business has had to figure out how to recruit and train people to become pig farmers. And so it's been a concern, it's been a point of angst for producers. And as we started Summit Precision Production about a year ago, we thought the human factor was something that needed to be addressed. And so we set out on a journey to bring human intelligence, to incorporate analysis to pig farming through how humans interact with animals, how humans interact with the system, to try to bring some solutions to this issue in pork production.
One thing that comes to mind as you and I are visiting and our experiences in the industry, and Kasey, you might find this interesting because you're visiting with two older guys who go way back. I remember how we would focus on the role of the farm woman in that farrowing operation. We would talk about the tender loving care that she provided was exceptional, that her male counterpart wasn't capable of bringing that motherhood characteristic to caring for the pigs. But caring for the pigs is really so important, is it not? And having that feeling of connection to the enterprise to do the job right.
Yeah, and what's interesting is there is some research out there that states that the human factor in pig production actually results in better performance on the pig's part. And so I believe the National Pork Board did some research on that pigs respond well to consistency and to consistent behavior on the human side, and it does correlate to better production as a whole. And so when we get into systems that have 30, 40, 50% turnover, that consistency factor tends to wane a little bit. And so a lot of our focus is around developing that person that can stay, that will have some traction in the farm, reducing turnover, and increasing pigmanship skills.
So it is possible to get that worker who will engage, who really will be a part of that effort to boost the profitability.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of it does tie into the platform that we are using right now, and it is called Cloverleaf. And with Cloverleaf, we are looking at the people that are actually applying for these jobs and the people that we are employing. And we can learn a lot about them from different personality assessments and dive a little deeper into these people and learn about them and who they are and how they work and what makes their clock tick just a little bit. And then we are able to put them in the positions that we know they are going to thrive at within these farms to see them reach their maximum performance.
Kasey, what does that process look like? Is it an extensive interview process? Do you set them down with specialists who can really analyze, what makes them tick?
Sure. No, so the Cloverleaf platform is a digital platform. You can follow to take the assessments and create an account just from a link from a website. And as you go to that website, you create an account, and it allows you to take a multitude of different assessments. It takes the Myers-Briggs assessment, the DISC assessment, a couple of cultural preference, the Culture Pulse assessment, and it will also look at your behavioral traits and characteristics with a VIA assessment.
So the potential employee is led through this process. He or she will sit down and go right through this process on their own.
Absolutely. They can do it on their own, or it can be administered by a potential employer, and then they have a dashboard. There is a slide right now if you'd like to take a look, and that would actually show you a little bit of an example of what a dashboard would look like. This is a dashboard of a potential team and where those teammates rank on that dashboard, and you can see the different personality types of the people on the team, and then you can break down that team per individual to see where a certain person ranks.
So you can move them into various responsibilities based on their strengths also.
Absolutely, and it really can help with conflict management. If you have a couple of employees that are just constantly butting heads and they're just not getting along, how do you deal with that? How do you approach that employee or both of those employees and resolve those issues? You can look at their personality differences and potentially see that that's the reason, and how do you fix that?
It occurs to me that the challenges of the swine industry are not unlike other industries, and probably these same platforms, the platform, I should say, the Cloverleaf platform,
Sure.
is used in other industries as well?
Yes, it's used in a multitude of different industries right now.
I'd add to Max, the thing that we at Summit Precision Production like to do is take a portion or a percentage of our intelligence outside of the pig industry. We think it keeps our industry fresh. Heavy industrial, mechanical, even white-collar industries have used various tools, whether it's in automation or in people management or whatever, that have worked very well and successfully. And so we have tapped into about a study, and I have a slide up here by Smith and Hunter, that looks at up to 90 years of industrial psychology and the effectiveness of assessments and general mental ability testing on the predictability and the utility of employees. So what Smith and Hunter did is they confirmed that some of the traditional methods of hiring people actually had less of a predictable result in employee performance without some assessments and some testing. And so that's what really drove us to the Cloverleaf platform. Cloverleaf platform is really nothing new in the sense that, in the sense of assessments, and it's the assessments that have been around for a long time. What it does is it packages them into a dashboard that allows you to look at everything in the context of your team, in the context of the individual. And then what we want to do at SPP is take it one step further and tie it to production metrics. We think as we build this database that we will have profiles of teams that would be ideal for particular areas of the farm. And so we're working with companies like Swine Management Systems to integrate this into benchmarking. And so we could look at a farrowing house team that has maybe a pre-weaning mortality of less than 10%. What does that look like? And we can't find any data out there today with of that type of information. And so we hope to build that information through our platform, through our labor intelligence efforts, and tie it to real-time production and business performance.
I would imagine as I ask this question, there'll be somebody watching who says, oh, wait a minute, I've got a horror story for you. But, and John, I'm sure back over the decades of your career, you can think of individual examples of where you had the wrong person in the job, and it was a nightmare. I mean, have you done anything to quantify the cost of having the wrong people in the wrong place?
Yeah, I think there are some general rules of thumb. Turnover costs you up to 35, 50, and in some cases in higher management positions, up to 100% of that employee's salary. And so when you look at an industry that has 35, 50, we were working with a farm that last year had over 100% turnover. These are costs. These are silent costs that we don't necessarily see or feel even to some degree, but they are very real and very heavy. And it doesn't even get to some of the production costs by the inconsistent management, short staffing, and so it becomes really a ripple effect, we think, in the business. And are we going to fix all the problems? No. I mean, it's not the silver bullet to end all end, but we want to bring is some more structured and scientific data to help solve this problem. If we can lower turnover 10% on systems with multi-million-dollar payrolls, there will be an impact there.
And when you're in a period of pinched margins, tight margins, that kind of thing can really matter, can't it,
yes,
John?
You bet.
Even the disengaged, disinterested employee is a problem. Isn't he or she, Kasey?
Yes, absolutely. And if they're disengaged and they aren't doing the work that's satisfactory for the animals or their coworkers. And when you look, there's a slide that we have to show here as well. And when you look, 13% of the workforce are actively disengaged.
So that's that bottom bar that we're looking at across the graph there.
Yes. And then when you look at the top, the green line, 34% are engaged. So there is a huge margin for improvement there.
Yeah, I think the other thing, Max, that really drives us, we're passionate about our industry. We're passionate about our vocation is one of the most noble and respected vocations in history, right? Providing food, providing protein for a world that's asking for it, that wants it, and we have either disengaged workers or we have workers that are not fulfilled in their careers, and that's something that I think we need to address. And how do we address that without understanding what makes people tick? And I think that we are driven to provide irresistible workplaces. How do we meet the needs of our folks? How do we meet their needs within the facilities, outside of the facilities? How do we build culture? In our organization, culture trumps strategy, as Peter Drucker says. And if you can't establish the right culture, you can have all the strategy, you can have all the resources at your fingertips, and you're not going to make change. And so we feel that the first part of building culture is knowing how to help people communicate in and amongst the facilities. Many of these facilities, you're working side by side with people. And we have seen countless examples in the clients that we're working with where it changes communication. Sometimes it changes positions. People get moved around. And a lot of our clients are driving their org charts around some of this feedback. And so that's really exciting to see that. We have a slide here on one particular farm that we're working with where we've made an impact on turnover. The turnover trends have been decreasing through 2019. We started with them in July, and
this is a particular farm.
This is a particular client, yes, and we have confirmed some of these strategies with setting expectations filling, writing process documents.
So if I'm looking at it correctly, you went from better than 30% turnover to down just a little more than 5%. Is that right?
Yep, and those are on monthly
Right.
metrics, and we're early in the game there, but we have seen a marked decrease in turnover numbers.
And that's in less than a year's time.
Yep,
So it is possible.
it is possible.
If you just tuned in, we're visiting with the folks from Summit Precision Production. John Hoek, along here with Kasey Sheldon, visiting with us here. And you have the opportunity to ask some questions. Put them into the box there. Go right to the box on the screen, and you can ask some questions of our guest as we're talking about their product that can go a long way, making a difference, obviously, in the management of the farm, your workforce on the farm, and ultimately the bottom line, too. One thing that occurs to me is, in this day and age, and we have to address it obviously because it's a real threat, those who want to cause harm to the people of animal agriculture. Can you sort out that person who is coming through and wants to come into the workforce for all of the wrong reasons? Is it possible to find them through the tests that you do?
Well, I would surely say it's not impossible, but I would think that we're looking at these people and their profile, their personality type, and I think it would definitely be something to work towards to start to define what that could potentially look like. Can I say that we know what that looks like right now? I cannot. But I do think that it would be something worth taking a dive into.
Yeah, I think the trend or the concept, Max, is that we understand the people at a deeper level,
Absolutely.
and so we are as we go through this, and the assessment process is very simple. It's an email link. You answer the questions. If you've already got some of these assessments done, we just load them up. It takes maybe 15 minutes, and we have access to both Spanish and English. But with that, you end up the communication process requires questions and dialogue that sends up flares of
Absolutely.
warning.
Red lights.
Yes, and I've talked to Dr. Justin Wiegand, is one of our partners, consultants that we use, and he has his PhD from University of Illinois in industrial psychology. And I often thought we should have some kind of a questionnaire to see if we can identify really somebody that's going to harm. I'm not sure if that would pass EEOC requirements, but I think that we do have our eye towards that, and more of this testing or assessments uncovers at least the opportunity to see that.
I would imagine having the right team members in place goes a long way toward a compelling argument on behalf of what you're doing for the welfare of the animal, the care of the animal, does it not? I mean, it really helps you tell that story more than ever.
It does, and we are currently building those teams and building those cultures and developing that proof of concept that does pay off for the workforce, but it also pays off for the animals as well.
Yeah, and what our Cloverleaf platform works in conjunction with is another product we have called Quality Performance System. That Quality Performance System is a lot like industrial engineering process development, and we have simplified that over what a sophisticated industrial engineering program would be. But what that allows us to do is produce training documents, and we usually use them, they're usually one page, but training documents on animal handling, on animal welfare. We're working with Dr. Angela Green Miller at University of Illinois, who is a expert in animal behavior. And so driving that knowledge down to the slat level, if you want to use that term, and providing a succinct communication process to get information into the hands of the workers, and a system to follow up and to affirm good behavior and to deal with issues that come up in a way that's lovingly restored is kind of what the whole program is about. And Ed Baylor, who is our CEO of Summit, his brother used to tell him, Ed, you can't lead without love. And so all of these systems are designed around building culture around a caring leadership style. And we think that goes a long way to bringing out the best in people and helping people realize their dreams and their aspirations as individuals and as a team.
What do you think is possible industry-wide as a standard for employee retention? I mean, is there a target number out there that's kind of a magic number, John, that you've drawn from your experience? I mean, just thinking of, obviously, I think the employer would love to have that consistency, and consistency is crucial, isn't it?
Yeah, and not all turnover is bad, and so I think that when you look at there's a certain percentage, probably less than 10% turnover. That's pretty natural, pretty healthy. But when you start pushing past 20%, then you start to really upset team dynamics. I think some of the best systems that we see are in that 15% range. We've got one client that's running 10%, and but they're using some seasonal workers, and so sub 20 is probably a really good place to be. The thing that's interesting is that when you're at 35% turnover or even 50% turnover, you have constant team dynamic changes. And if you're not careful, that can really spin. It can cause your teams to really spin. And so the goal is to drive it below 20%, but in the event that it exceeds that, then you got to equip yourself to deal with that.
I guess what we're looking at here, Kasey and John, is really the integration of not just the human element, but technology too into the modern swine operation. That's the optimal format, is it not?
Yeah, the thing that we talk about is, the big talk in tech or technology is, let's replace humans with machines, right? Yeah. So we're just going to push buttons. And at our annual huddle meeting where we talked about the strategy of where SPP is going, we played a video on the Jetsons, and George Jetson was sitting at his desk, and all he did was push a button. And that's not where we want to go. I mean, the human is definitely an integral part of pig production, but the thing that we recognize and that we need to recognize is that the pig farmer of yesterday is not going to necessarily be the same type of person, the same guy, the same skill sets as the pig farmer of tomorrow. I use this slide to illustrate some of the decade. Seems like about every 15 to 20 years, things change, and it requires a different facility. It requires a different skill set. And this is a picture of Pig City, which is a integrated farrow to finish swine operation that produces electricity and about 1,200 tons of tomatoes out of a greenhouse powered by biogas. And so that farm manager, that worker, is a different profile than the man in the top left corner. So as our industry adapts technology, we also think that the human is the gateway to implementation. And if we can't equip our humans, we're going to have a hard time bringing precision agriculture to pig production. And so that's why we have decided to tackle that first, and then we'll go after, at Summit, we'll go after some of the precision initiatives. But we've got to equip humans to be able to operate in those environments.
Well, we have some folks who've been watching, have been offering some questions here. We want to share with you and get your response from the perspective of Summit Precision Production. The first question is, you've started working with various producers. What have been your key learnings, and have any of those caused you to adjust your thinking when it comes to employee engagement or placement within an operation? Have you responded to some feedback to change what you're doing?
Well, I think absolutely. We've adjusted our thinking a lot over the period of different companies and how we're interacting with the employee engagement. And I know a lot of producers are wondering how they're going to implement this into their system and how they are going to make it work for their system and their employees. And for us, it's been working with those producers alongside of them and showing them the benefits of how getting to know your people a little bit better helps you understand them, helps them understand their teammates, and help them work together. And I think as a team, we've had that struggle of learning how to do that and how to adapt to different systems and how their ways of thinking have been.
Yeah, and I would add too, Max, that in the beginning, a year ago, we embedded people, our people, in the farm. And we have since kind of moved away from that because we found that it caused a little bit of confusion in who's in charge. And so we have settled on a model where the leadership of the farm has to drive the initiatives, and then our team takes their initiatives and converts them into usable documents and team dynamics. Kasey does an excellent job of analyzing teams and looking at how those teams should function together. And production is the big area of opportunity with this. Often people think of these types of assessments as HR tools. They are HR tools, but production is the primary user of Cloverleaf outside of agriculture. Within agriculture, we think production is where it's going to be at because that's where the impact is. So coming alongside the leadership, not replacing the leadership, but helping the company leadership drive the initiatives and the communications that they want to have happen. And we have experts in document management and communication to drive that all the way down to the people that it's intended for.
Let's go to another question here. Wouldn't you agree that the kind of system you've outlined is really only for larger producers rather than an operation that has just a few employees? Kasey, you want to take that?
Well, I can take it. That's fine. I think regardless if your company is large or if your company is small, you still have employees. And people seem to be the constant subject of that is the problem. How do we fix this labor problem that we have? And so I think regardless if your company is a bigger company with hundreds of employees or a smaller one with 10, it can very much be impactful to your company.
Yeah, and we joke about it, but my wife and I are a team in Cloverleaf, right? And we're polar opposites. And
opposites attract.
Opposites attract.
Worked for you.
But yeah, I got the better deal, not her. But it even with two people, the insights are really interesting. And so this platform isn't that expensive, and so we look at these teams, whether they're 6 people or 1,100, there is value in taking these assessments, no matter how small. Actually, our mid-sized producers are the ones that are most interested.
Mid-size, how would you categorize that?
It could be anywhere from 15,000 to 60,000 sows, and we've got some poultry operations on this as well, but they've got 80 employees. We got one system, we have 35 employees. And so, yeah, the size really is not the key. I think it's the application and the interpretation that ends up really driving the change and the benefit.
I guess one thing that strikes me, Kasey, is the depth. You really drill down, it seems like, in that applicant to really find the qualities.
Yes, and the platform offers you an insight box, and so that insight will actually give you detailed information about that person, and it will give you conflict triggers, communication styles, and a lot of really deep information to help you understand what makes them the way they are and how they communicate, or how are they going to get mad at me if I say something. So
it's not just a tool for hiring. It allows that manager going forward to have better insight in managing that workforce.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a active, and I guess our vision is that this becomes as important or as necessary as a pig production software. And in our assessment of where we're at as an industry, the pig production software is very important. We don't discount that at all. We have to have that. We've got to have that. You wouldn't think of having a farm without it. We feel the same way about the people side, and the frontline most valuable asset that we have. What are we doing to invest in understanding how that thing works? And so we hope to become just a standard part of how we manage people, how we manage our farms, and the cost is just fractional compared to the investment that we're making in payroll. And that's what's really interesting is the maintenance that we do on that investment, and how do we take care of that investment to maximize it.
Let's go to another question here. There's always the challenge of getting employees to work a night shift or on the weekends. Any advice on how to get and keep those employees engaged? Is it about a different pay schedule for those willing to take the odd hours? Are we getting a little off the track here? But I just...
No, I think that that's one of the fundamental parts of agriculture, right? There's 7-day care, and in many cases it's a lot like nursing, or it's a lot like other jobs and that require weekend work. I think the thing that we look at and try to emphasize is the balance side of things. How do you prepare schedules? And in my previous history, we went to, in every third weekend, we developed some interesting ways of trying to give time off during the week, so that you don't have a 12-day run where you're working 12 days straight without a break. And so part of that's the cultural aspect that you build into that, that you're able to provide ways that folks can still have a good work-life balance and don't get burned out. And so we think that's important to have. If you don't have turnover, you're not missing people, and so that all contributes to the aspect of getting people motivated to work weekends.
Let's go to another question here. Does the research show that setting up a competition between employees or employee teams is it a good thing? Perhaps who would have the lowest death loss? In other words, a team that would have the lowest death loss during farrowing or something like that, I think is what the questioner means, pairing off teams to compete with each other. Does that work?
We've done some of that in the past. I don't know if there's any research that backs it up, but I think that's just part of a fun culture. And I know in my past we had it wasn't necessarily about production, but we had a boot decorating contest, right? We had a picnic, and then you get a chore boot and you decorate it, and we had some people judge it, and it builds the culture. You want it enhances engagement, and particularly if you assign some both financial and recognition. Most people want just a pat on the back saying, hey, you're doing a great job, and that goes a long way. And so competitions give us an excuse to recognize, and I think that's always a good thing.
We have one more question here, I believe. We have a minute or two left. Is there an advantage to having regular events? Team building events, I guess, is what they're saying. Cookouts, family picnics, community outreach events, does that help raise the employee engagement and maybe keep an employee around longer?
Well, I think that kind of ties into that last question about the competitions and creating that culture. And I think that the more you do have events where you're including employees and they're getting to meet maybe not just their manager, but someone else in the company, or just getting together as a whole, I do think that improves your culture. And it's very healthy to have people get together and just mingle, not work, not be going to get a job done, but yet to sit back, relax, and get to know each other on a personal level. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that we just came through our summit team huddle, and as a startup, it's 8 or 9 of us, but it was a point in time where we could stop and cast the vision for where we're going, inspire each other, and then share a meal where you may not necessarily talk about where you're going, but just get to know each other. And that always, in our mind, builds camaraderie, and you spend most of your waking hours with the people you work with. It's better if you kind of like them than if you don't. And so anything that we can do to promote that healthy culture, that culture of respect. In our mission statement, we say we want to change protein production in a way and create cultures of innovation and opportunity. And so we would like to see ourselves have a culture that allows us to dream big, to cast a vision for the future that helps the industry, and helps us personal fulfillment in our goals and our passion for people. And so I think that's always a good thing to try to inspire that through off work activities.
We've had some great questions come in. I'm sure there'll be some more, but let's spend a minute or two just summarizing a bit here. Kasey, let's talk about the Cloverleaf element and what this can do for the person who uses your services.
Sure. So I think that someone that would like to use the Cloverleaf platform can take away building those high-performing teams for their company, and they can also dive in and learn about their people more in depth and learn how to just get along with people better, how to manage conflict within your teams, and just get to know that team as a whole and really help build that culture that you're looking for.
It helps you get the right people to begin with.
Yes.
It helps you know those people better once they're on the team, and helps you manage them better to have a better opportunity at profitability on down the road then, I guess you're saying.
Absolutely. Yes.
John, what else should we know from the standpoint of bringing this to the producer to really, if not enhance that bottom line, to give it the best opportunity to improve the bottom line of the operation, recognizing the human resource is so important?
Sure, yeah, and I think that producers use, and this industry uses, a wide variety of talent pools. And the benefit of this platform is across cultural and socioeconomic profiles, the tool allows you to understand where folks are at. And I think our goal is to increase engagement, to build culture, to provide a irresistible place to work by understanding how people interact with each other best, and to hopefully drive bottom line results in our businesses. Many of our businesses are family businesses that are legacy businesses that have been in our families for a long time and have now had to rely on help outside of the family. And that transition, in some cases has been good, in some cases has been rough. And I think that we hope to just bring tools to help make that a easy and insightful transition.
John, Kasey, it's been great to visit with you and to gain your insight. We appreciate it so much. We've been visiting with John Hoek, who is the Director of Swine System Development here with the Summit Precision Production. And also we've been visiting with Kasey Sheldon, who's, what is your title, by the way, Kasey, the formal title?
The formal is I'm the Human Strategy Coordinator.
Excellent. Thank you both for your insight. We sincerely appreciate it. We hope you have enjoyed this conference as we have visited here over the past few minutes. This session brought to you by National Hog Farmer. And please don't forget to visit the event lobby. Check out the extensive collection of all of the resources there, the information provided by our event sponsors, and let them know how much you appreciate their participation in this first ever virtual conference. And we welcome your feedback as well, I might add. This Global Hog Industry Conference brought to you by National Hog Farmer. I'm Max Armstrong. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.